Hello, hello, hello. Very, very sudden. I was expecting there to be a little bit of a fade out there, but that's okay. Little, little bit of a performance from one of my EPs that you can find on my Bandcamp. This button. No face cam today. I did not feel like it. Plus, there's a lot of information on this screen, and adding a face cam would merely cover it all up. So, hello, hello. Today, we, as in me, we are doing the royal we today. I am going to be talking about game audio in the Unreal Engine 5. Now, I have a prior history with working in the Unreal Engine, mostly in Unreal Engine 4. And I have not done a whole lot of work using the audio system that was built into Unreal. I always built it. I always integrated the audio using Wwise. So that's where a lot of my audio experience is from, is integrating Wwise into Unreal. I have tutorial videos on my personal YouTube channel, and I will hope to do some similarly related tutorials for this channel. But until then, I decided that I wanted to talk about the audio design in Unreal Engine 5 using their meta sounds. Now, if you want to play along with me, I am using the pre-built third-person template for Unreal Engine 5. So when you create a new Unreal Engine 5 project, just go into games and select the third person version. And when you are in, it will look like this. That way we can play along if you feel like playing along with me while I do this, and especially if you are a VOD watcher, that means you can pause and stick with me all the way to the end. So this is going to be a little bit of a learning experience for all of us, because as I said, my main experience is with Wwise, and I did in fact do some playing around with meta sounds prior to this stream or video if you're watching the VOD. But my familiarity with this is still quite fresh and quite new. And I am very much looking forward to this. It seems like they added quite a bit to their sound systems. Now, in Unreal Engine 4, their sound system was sound cues. And I have zero experience with sound cues, so I can't talk about that at all. You can still use sound cues in Unreal Engine 5, but they are deprecated, which means that they are old and not going to be updated, and will at some point in the future be removed. Until then, we have meta sounds, which is the new and improved thing that is being used for Unreal Engine. And meta sounds are kind of like hyped up sound cues, but it's more or less, if you're familiar with blueprints at all, blueprints is how I like to code in Unreal. It's the node-based visual programming that is native to the Unreal Engine. It is how I like to code. I really like how it feels like a puzzle whenever I'm putting this together. This is just a simple play sound thing that I made, but if we go to the third person character that comes pre-built, you can see a little bit more of how this functions. Always plays from left to right. You have an event. The event is triggered. It does a thing. In this case, it's a movement action. It does movement input, and then it does the movement. And then there's a bunch of variables that get modified throughout here. The meta sounds do more or less the same thing, except their event is basically an input that says, hey, we are being played now. And that's what this is. This is play sound 2D, and I have this triggered to a meta sound that I have created. I stuck a bunch of wave files in here from a project that I worked on in the past because it was easy and I didn't want to get out my external hard drive. So let's take a look at getting this set up, right? Because not everybody is going to be hip to how this functions. So I have a thing in here. It's just my audio player. I'm going to shoot that off to the side because I'm not going to use that one. So what we're going to do is first I'm going to mention, even if you're just messing around like I am right now, it's really good practice to try and start sorting your files. This Unreal project comes pre-built with this third-person folder, this level prototyping folder, and I think that's it. Because I made the prefab, oh, nope, and it comes with the characters folder. I added prefabs just in case I needed it. I added a blueprints folder for anything not related to the third-person character. And I have an audio folder that's going to hold all of the sounds that I imported or created. That way, everything is in its place, and I don't have to go crazy about it in the future. Part of the reason for that is if I do more of these, I'm going to be using the same project. It'll just be easier for my sanity that way. So, when you open up the brand new, fresh third-person project, this is what it is going to look like. If you were to play, you jump in. I do have a sound in here that's played whenever I hit the left mouse button as I was playing around. You will have a soundless but surprisingly good-looking little tutorial level with objects that are affected by physics, and that box just got sent into the stratosphere. But aside from that, it's nice and bare bones. This is just a little sandbox to play around and test scripts in. So hit escape, get out of that. If you are extremely fresh, then you, in order to move around the way that I'm moving around, you hold down right click and you can scroll your mouse around to rotate your camera. If you hold the middle mouse button and drag around, it will pan your camera. And if you hold down right click and use WASD, it will move your camera in horizontal space. And that's how I tend to control the camera. It just makes sense to me. Now, let's just get you folks creating your very first sound. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go into Blueprints, right click, and create a new blueprint. And we're going to call this an actor. There are several different types of classes here that you can make, and for our purposes, most of what we're going to be doing are actors. We may be doing components at some point down the line, but for today and for the foreseeable future, it's going to be actors or characters. So we're going to hit actor, and then we get to rename it. And I already have audio player, so we're going to call this one, we'll just call it Test Boop. Double click on that. And right now it's nothing. If you were to put this into the world and hit play, you wouldn't see it. There's nothing going on here. But that's okay. We don't need this to look like anything. Click and drag that, and you can place this out into the world. In order for any of your blueprints to work, it has to be placed out into the world. Now, we're going to do something extraordinarily simple. Give me... Oh my gosh. Hitting the wrong buttons. Now it's going to open Visual Studio, which I don't want. There we go. Open Flow Blueprint Editor. And we are going to... my computer is going to freak out because it's opening Visual Studio. Please get out of my life. There we go. Okay. So we're going to click and drag these. We're going to get rid of those, just so that we can pay attention to this one bit. So, as I mentioned before, anything that you do in a blueprint is going to start with an event. This is begin play, which means that when the level starts, it does a thing. So we're going to pull out this arrow. Now, if you want, the way that I like to learn blueprints is every time you pull out a node, it'll give you all of the possible options for that node. This right here is pretty much everything. But I'm going to show you something here. I want create sound 2D. And to show you an example of what I mean, if I were to pull this little pin out, it will only show me things related to the type of variable that's looking for, which is still technically a lot of things. But if I were to search float, then I can find a number of float variables, or more importantly, I can just promote this to a variable, which is now down here under variables, and we can talk about that in the future. But now, we're creating a sound 2D. We're going to hit compile up here in the upper left-hand corner. I'm pointing at my screen. I am physically pointing at my screen to try to tell you where to go, but just follow my mouse. So we have this placed in the world. We hit play, and aside from the laser that I created myself, there was no sound. I should actually remove that. Hold on. Audio player. Delete. There. So, event begin play. As soon as the level begins and the object is created, the sound will play. But if I hit play, there's no sound. We didn't attach a sound to it. So now we need to attach a sound to it. Now I have a bunch of audio files in here. We'll just go ahead and pick one. Hit play. Oh, and now we get to start figuring out our own bugs, because a sound should have played there, but it didn't. And it's because we have this auto destroy. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's because we have the auto destroy. This always happens when I'm recording or streaming. As soon as I do something that I know should work, it doesn't. There we go. I apparently just don't have a understanding of what the create sound does as opposed to play sound. But that was also playing just off of a WAV file, which we're not ultimately going to do. So what we are going to do is we're going to go into this audio folder that I know everybody created. We're going to right click, go to audio, and do a Metasound source. Now there's two different versions of these. There's Metasound source, and there's Metasound patch. Metasound source actually creates the sound. Metasound patch is, think of it as a as like a effects preset. You trigger the sound and then it goes through all of your effects, and you can have that in your Metasound source. But if you are going to be using the same batch of effects for a bunch of different sounds, then you can create a patch and just point to that patch whenever you want to run sounds through the same thing over and over again. We're not going to look at that today, but it is good to know for the future. I'm going to call this sound 3 because I have 2 already, but you can name this whatever you want. And then we are going to double click on that. For one-shot sounds, which is what we're going to be focusing on today, we get this output that has to have something plugged into it. We also have this input that has to have something plugged into it. The input is saying when it is played, do the thing connected to the pin. And then we have this output that is an audio output, and this is where the sound is actually being performed. This output, when the onFinished is triggered, stops everything that's happening for this meta sound. So if this output is triggered before this sound is done playing, the sound just stops. Also, the fan in my computer is very sad. I'm very sorry if you're hearing that. So what are we going to do here? Well, let's see what this pin allows us to do. We can promote to an output. Let's see what that does. Oh, look. Output on play UE source. No idea what that does. We delete that. We could also just plug it to the onFinished output. That's boring. It plays no sound. But if we hit play, we can see that it's at least doing something, even if it's nothing. Break that link. We cannot connect this to the out mono. It's not the same type of data. So we're going to go here. And we are going to go to functions. This is where all of your effects and audio generators are. If we want to play a WAV file, that's what all of these WAV player things here are for. So if we want to play a mono WAV file, we get this, and it has a ton of pins on it. But let's just be nice and simple here. Put that there. And then we have more of these pins. On play, we can have it trigger something else within the same meta sound if we wanted to. On finished, we could have it go to the output, in which case it ends the meta sound. We also have an out for our audio, which goes there. So now if we hit play, and I don't know if you can notice this through the stream, but you hit play, this connection between the input and the wave player lights up, telling you that information is passing between the two things. When the sound is finished, this connection between the wave player and the output, the unfinished output, also lights up. And while the sound is playing, this pin down here lights up. It's a nice visualization for seeing where the code is going. So now that we have sound 3 all set up, we're going to go ahead and shrink that. We're going to go to our blueprints, go to test boop, and then in the sound that we're going to play, we're going to go and select the sound we just created, compile, save. And it plays as soon as we start. Now let's go ahead and go back here. What else can we do with this? Well, we can, what if I wanted to select a random sound? Because I have several sounds in here. So what if we take this and we place it here? What can we create? What if we promote this to a variable? Now, for those of you that are not as hip into programming, I'm not hip into programming, let's be real, but I've done this a few times. A variable is essentially something that you use to vary the data of something being performed in the code. Now, this variable that I created is essentially telling the wave player what wave asset to use, which I can then say over here, right here, what sound I want it to play. However, if I wanted to, I could actually make this an array. An array is a variable with multiple data types in it, or multiple data points in it. Think of it like a range of numbers. In this case, it'll be a range of a range of audio files. So now I've got my 3 different audio files in here. But an array does not fit into this data point. While it's the same type of data, the array needs to be broken down somehow. So we're going to go to functions. We are going to get wave asset. And then whatever is selected out of here goes into here. Unfortunately, it's always going to be selecting option whatever is typed in here. It's not going to be random. And again, in a programming language, the first number is always 0, not 1. So 0 would be the first option, 1 would be the second option, and 2 would be the third option. I'm going to drag this out. And there are ways for us to get random numbers. And this is a float, or burp. It's an integer. There we go. There's 2 different kinds of numbers. There's floats, there's integers. I don't know how basic I should be using my language. I don't know who needs this. People that know how to program or people that don't. Integer is whole numbers. Floats are numbers with decimal points. So we're going to set a range. This is a random number generator. And it's going to go from 0 to 2 because I have 3 WAV files to choose from. So now, a random file is going to be picked and played. So if I hit play, and of course, only having 3 files means that there's not going to be that much variability in there. But of course, now if we were to play the game, it would pick one of those 3 random files. I'm not going to do that, though, because that would be boring. We already know that's what's going to happen. But, and now here's where things are going to get a little bit funky. What if we want to test a sound in-game and be able to trigger it however much we want? There's going to be 2 things we need to do. We're going to need to get rid of event begin play in our, what I named test boop. And we need a new event. And this is where experimenting gets a little fun. If you're into this, I'm super into learning blueprints in this way. I type in event, and now I have a whole bunch of events that I can pick from. How cool is that? Let's see. How about we type in keyboard? And now it'll give me all of the options for keyboard events. So what if I decided that I wanted to hit E? And it gives us an option for both pressed and released. We're just going to do pressed. Every time we press E, it's going to play this sound. We're going to do that. And we're going to hit play. And we're going to hit E. Oh, no, look, no sound is playing. I actually knew that was going to happen this time. That was not an accident, unlike before. Now, when you are playing around with keyboard inputs, you have to allow the player controller to affect things, and that can be annoying sometimes. But if you click, there are so many options in here. Disk. You have to give the blueprint the option to allow the player controller to affect it with inputs. So if you click on the object in the world, scroll down to input, auto receive input, we're going to say player 0, and then save. And now if we go into the world, theoretically this works. There it is. All right. But there are other things we can do. What if we wanted to... See, these cubes are out here just living their lives, not doing anything important. What if we added a simple blueprint to these guys? This one specifically. We're going to name you. Let's name you Bounce. So now we have a new blueprint that I named Bounce. I'm going to throw this into blueprints to keep everything tidy. Yes, I know, I moved a thing. Congratulations. And then what if We have an event. And we want... Oh, I put this in the wrong spot. Oops. Did I just spell it wrong? Physics, collision, generate overlap events. I really want to do this. I could put this on the character. We're going to say custom. Collision responses. Overlap. Trace object response. Destructible. Okay, maybe I don't actually need to change that. But I'm going to put that there anyways. I really want to make this work, but I might not be able to do it today. Because again, I'm very familiar with doing this with Wise. I'm not familiar with doing this. Event. Begin play, end play, tick. Keyboard events. Motion events, mouse events. Touch events. Okay. They probably did something different with overlaps. That's okay. Let's check. Jump, input camera. There we go. Actor begin overlap. So we can do that here. But I guess I can't do it here. And it might have something to do with the type of yeah, it might have something to do with the type of object that is. That's okay. This is still a good thing to see because there are multiple ways that you can trigger a sound. Audio. Play sound 2D. And sound 1. Let's just see what this collides into. It doesn't collide with these. Just future tutorials, I guess. For myself as well. It's interesting trying to get back into this after so long. I've been doing a lot of work in Unity as opposed to Unreal. And I haven't touched Unreal 5 all that much. So I am excited to get into this. All right, well, let's use what we have. Because we can still learn a lot from this. Um, One of the big things that I really liked about Wwise is that it made it really easy to vary the audio. All you had to do was turn on a randomizer and then say how much you wanted to randomize it. Now, looking at this, I can already tell how I can randomize this audio some more. And we can start with the pitch. We're going to promote this to... Actually, no. What I want is a random float. From... Does this say pitch shift to use for the wave asset in semitones? So if I were to put this down to -1 and 1, this would randomize a float between -1 and 1 semitone. And now so we already have a lot of variability just by adding in a random float and an array of sounds. And I'm not sure how easy that was to do in sound cues, but this feels fairly nice. Now, what else can we do here? There are a lot of pins here that I am uncertain what they do. And I'm not going to play with them just yet. So there is a way to trigger stopping the wave player. But you know what else we can do is on play. So when this wave player starts, we can actually play a sine wave. Oh, maybe not. Oh, because the audio is not going anywhere. Oh, all right. We can only have one audio pin going out of here at a time. That's all right. Hmm. Hmm. There we go. Mono mixer. This is how I like to learn how to do blueprints, by the way, is doing something wrong and then figuring out what tools are available to make it right again. Yeah, okay. Sorry for the sine wave. Let's put that like much lower. So now we can have within one meta sound, we can have multiple layers playing at the same time. But how do we use this? And more importantly, how do we play around with the volume of sounds? within a meta sound. We can within the blueprint. Where'd you go? I have moved. I have moved it too far down. I can't grab it. Hold on 1 second. There we go. Jesus. I really did just put it right behind my taskbar. So if we expand our play sound node here, we have several options for how we can modulate the sound from the blueprint, but it affects the entire sound and not individual portions of a sound, which is not what we want to do. Now, literally right before starting stream, I was looking up how to modulate sound from blueprints, and it sounds like it is not straightforward. Doable, but not straightforward. Like, what if I want, like, we have a modulation pin right here, which, from an audio designer's perspective, means that I should be able to use that to modulate anything I want. But it's also an audio pin, so I'm not 100% sure what that's doing. How about we do a test? How about we put this audio into there to modulate it and see what that does? I'm curious. Nothing. What if I change what kind of sine wave this is? Sine approximation using discovered in the 17th century. What? I don't know what that means, if I'm honest. 2D rotation? Nope, not doing anything interesting. No idea. It doesn't seem to care. Alright. Let's unsync it. Nope. So despite having all these pins, nothing seems to be doing anything at this juncture. Also, we don't need anything connected on this side. It just runs. It is always on unless we, I'm guessing, unenable it? Yeah. And what if we want to change the frequency? Loop ratio is what connects to that. So that doesn't make any sense, right? Decibels to linear gain, not what I want. And we do have a series of envelopes that we can pick from. Like we have access to an ADSR, but which is an interesting thought in regards to in regards to the frequency of the sine wave. So if we say on play, we trigger the attack, and we're going to have the attack time be 1 second. We're going to have the decay time be 1 second. And we'll just play with that. Why not? Interesting. Yeah, it's enabled. No sound came out. All right. Break that link. Nothing. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little stumped. All right, break that link, and then put this under. Oh nope, can't do. You don't have the same thing. So let's pull this pin out. Go under functions. Go under envelopes. We have a different ADSR that we can use. Out envelope. On play. Trigger attack. Five. But it doesn't have any noticeable anything to that. On done sync. Actually, on attack triggered, we sync. No, doesn't seem to do anything. Release time will also say 0.5. About doing that. Yeah, I have no idea. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research on this one. We are at least able to get basic sounds going, but I'm gonna have to do a lot more playing before I can come in with another tutorial. I should stick with. Definitely should have just done Wwise today, but honestly, that's okay. One of my favorite ways to learn is by just sitting here and hacking away at it, but that's not necessarily fun to watch. So, I'll just continue sitting here hacking away at it. And next time I do a solo stream, or if I stream with Adam or Noel, we can have more fun exploring with Unreal. Now, in regards to our schedule, let me see who's up next. Go to our email here. So our next stream is going to be March 3rd, and it is going to be with me and Noel. So we did start including in our schedule times for us to do solo streams. It helps reduce our overall workload. and also gives us an opportunity to talk about subjects that would be a lot harder to do with the technical limitations of working with digital audio workstations. Digital audio workstations do not play well with live streaming, and while it's easy it's easy enough to live stream game audio when you are solo and only having to point the audio to a live stream. It's hard to do that with a second person and pointing the audio to our Discord channel where we are in a call together. So in order to get around that hurdle, we're doing some solo streams so that we can work on some other topics and discussions and tutorials and what have you. So there's going to be solo streams in between each of our duo streams. And our next duo stream is March 3rd, me and Noel. And the stream after that is March 17th, which is a solo stream with Adam. And yeah, topics of discussion to be figured out leading up to the streams. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know, either emailing us at joystickjams@gmail.com. You can also leave a comment on the YouTube video. We post up a VOD for one of our streams the week following a stream. So there will be a VOD put up next week Sunday, and then another VOD in 3 weeks. So feel free to leave a comment there. And yeah, so yeah, questions, comments, concerns, please go to those places and we will be happy to get back to you. And until then, I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.